And it brought me back to something that a girl that I used to know had said, that she read this article that of this Harvard literary literary professor, whatever, was saying that love was a 20th century construction and it doesn't really exist and blah blah blah.
Mm.
And I found that so annoying because she wasn't even saying 20th century, she was saying 21st century. Yeah, she was like well, 1990s and like romance, and her whole article, like this 2-page article, was talking about all of this. And I was like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, ever read. And I'm so disappointed that it's coming from a Harvard person, because you want to think that these people are the highest educated people. And
Well, I've recently lost respect for for Harvard and all of these
yes,
supposedly
semi,
I don't know, the best universities in the
yeah,
world. Apparently not.
exactly,
Apparently they're not.
because with this, I could come up, and I'm not particularly well versed in, millennia of literature, but
Yeah.
off the top of my head, I can come up with Shakespeare, Victor Hugo, Moliere, uh, Greek authors that they talk about love, like Helen of Troy and things like that. And it's just like, what are you on about? So the answer of who, so I just wanted to bring that one up, of just who found love. No, love has always existed. And certain psychologists will talk about how, it's, how do you call it? Conditioning. It
Yeah.
starts off with conditioning, and it's like, well, sure, whatever, but it is still, love, whatever it is, if we think it's magical, hormonal, whatever, conditioning or whatever, because yes, it seems normal that these psychologists, you'll have some that they say, oh, look, it's fake because it's just conditioning, and others will be like, well, no, you learn to love the people that do nice things for you and make you feel good. Like, we'll call that conditioning, but that doesn't mean it's negative. Just as if you want your kids to behave well, then you will reward them, and you will, it doesn't have to be a bad word. Yes, it's conditioning. You learn to love the people that make you feel good and that remind you of something familiar, and that's that. So who found love? I mean, now I'm thinking, who found love, should it could have also just been the question, a list of celebrities that were in love. um but anyway, I wanted to just address that, of just, it is definitely not a like late 1990s construction. It is something that has been around for a long while, forever. It's just an emotion, just like any other, just like fear is that, conditioning and all of this. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think it's something that we can really measure or decide or it's again, it's just it's a feeling, it's an emotion, it's a compatibility matter that's just very natural. I think it's part of being human.
Yeah.
It's also it's difficult for me to answer that question because it's just it's like asking what is love or
Yes, so
is
abstract.
it's yeah, it's very hard to answer that. There's no way of really saying like when and how and who started it and who actually felt love and who didn't and what's made up and what's wishful thinking. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows?
So yeah, so I just stop believing these bitter people, of just that if they choose to be single and they choose to, you know, that's fine. That's fine. But if they're saying that these positive things are just a social construct and we should give up, then just stop it.
Yeah.
You know,
People are using it as an excuse because they couldn't find love
yeah,
or they get love and they've had a difficult time to find love. So they're like, then love must not be real.
yeah, exactly. Love must
Um,
be the problem, not myself.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Recently happening a lot with what do they call themselves um with the Gen Z. Oh my God. Oh my God. That when they discover that something isn't the truth they thought they were, so they just decide that that's the blame. It can't be possibly true. So
Yeah, yeah. People have trouble kind of.
they can't accept the truth and they feel more comfortable with their lie. So instead of accepting that it's the truth and they've been lying to themselves, then they're just going to say the truth is the lie.
Yeah. And because the world is just like so ever changing, like what was true for like my parents told me to study and go to school and do this and do that, and because when they were my age, that's just how things worked. It was,
Mm-hmm.
for the majority of people, if you went to school and got a master's degree, you would just get a good job with good money. But it's just not true anymore. I mean, it's true for some, but today it's just not true anymore. And the more we go, the more like the faster things are changing. So, generations used to be 15 years, and then it used to be 10 years, and now two generations is something like it's 4 or 5 years between two generations, because they calculate it in a like, how savvy will they be with technology, and how are things working for them. And it's just because so it's moving so fast that before, they'd have these long periods of time because this is going to be the same for everyone, and actually it's not the case anymore. So it's accepting all of these things.
We're
So
digressing
we're digressing it as we do. But yeah, so just
as we do.
love is not a social construct. It's an emotion. It's a human emotion. It's a lot of animals feel that emotion. And if you believe that your dog loves you and you don't think that has got anything to do with conditioning, you're wrong. And it doesn't matter. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make it any less true that they love you and you love them. Your
Yeah,
turn.
my turn. Let's move on. Maybe a question about being single,
Yeah.
which I always love. Um, how do I accept that I am single? Which is a difficult thing for us, especially these days. Speaking of love, it's very difficult for us to accept the fact that we're, because we often see it as the end of the world. And it's hard for us. Well, it really depends on the situation. It could be difficult for us if we've always been in relationships and suddenly now we're single and it's hard for us to accept the new status. Or we've only ever been single and we just can't, we can't accept it. It just annoys us that we can't seem to find someone. And I think that more often than not accepting our singlehood is what prevents us from finding love and what is making us actually be miserable. So instead of fighting it and trying to force something to happen, or just trying to control what we can't control, is just making the most of it and just deciding to go with it instead of trying to fight it. Just go with the flow and find the ways to fill up your single life that helps you have fun with yourself and make your dreams come true. That, because again, there's more to life than just having a relationship and just falling in love.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't know that I like that sentence. How do I accept that I am single? Like,
Oh, yeah.
it's kind of like, how do I accept that I lost my job, and how do I accept that I'm a size 40 instead of a size 38, or like L instead of M, or whatever. Like, these things are not something that are just, I actually forget about the clothes size, because some people it is genetic, but lost your job, or how do I accept this, or when these situations are not situations that you are condemned to stay in the rest of your life. You
Mm-hmm.
want to accept something that you can't change. So for example, how do I accept that my boyfriend never puts his socks away, or that How do I accept the fact that my husband cheated on me? Or how do I accept the fact that my friend and I will never agree on this, or whatever? Like, these are things that are on, probably never going to change. And so that's a good thing to just, how do you accept it? But single, it's not something that you should have to accept, in the sense that it is not this big thing that will change your life. How do I accept my breakup? How do I accept my divorce? Yes, those things are final. How do you move on from that? Those things are final. But how do I accept that I'm single? Like, this is a situation that may change, and for it to change, you need to not make a big deal out of it. So if you need to make a big deal out of being single, then you're probably going to stay single for a while. Whereas if you just do what you said, which is just live your life, and think about what how you want your life to look like, and how you want to be spending your time, and things like that. And how do I accept that I lost my leg? How do I accept that I,
Yeah.
these things that you cannot change? Yes, how do I accept them? But other things of, how do I accept being single, or how do I accept, I don't know, many things that can change. Then it's that you're not asking yourself the right question.
Yeah, you're focusing on the wrong things instead
Exactly.
of, because again, it's very dynamic. Your status changes, and it's not something that's going to be forever.
Yeah.
And instead of just focusing on what you can control right now and what you can do at the moment, you become obsessed over being single. And when you're just constantly asking yourself, how do I accept this as if it's the end of the world,
Yeah.
that is what makes you get stuck in a rut, and it makes you it makes you stuck in the worst type of being single, if that makes sense, instead of making your single life be incredible, which it can be.
Yeah. Yeah, 100% agree with that. It's, some of the questions that came up for when I was looking around love was how to find love after a divorce, how to find love after a breakup. Well, then that's not, again, that's not the right way of looking at it. How to live after a breakup, how to live after a divorce, these big events. I was like, yeah, I would agree that. But if you want to find love after something that you seemingly have not accepted because it's still part of your thought process, then you're not, you're it's how to learn how to run before walking. Well, no, you need to learn to walk, so get over this big event, and then we'll talk about finding love.
Yeah.
So yeah, so how to accept that I'm single? Well, stop thinking about the fact that you're single, and start thinking about how you want your life to look like. And yeah, I guess that's
Yeah.
my 2 cents.
And also understand that it's not the end of the world, and it's not what determines your value. It doesn't make you better or worse than anyone else, and it doesn't make you more pathetic or sad or lonely. It doesn't make you worse than someone that's in a relationship. It's just what it is. It's just your status. It's not, it's not making a big deal out of it, and not letting anyone else make a big deal out of it. And if someone does, and that's their problem, and you just do you and move on.
Yeah, exactly.
So should we do one more, or how are we on timing?
I think we're around 40 minutes. Shall we do one more each?
Yeah, let's do one more.
Um, I have a lot I had a lot of like percentages, like what percentage compatibility, because I looked at like French words and English words, and in France we've got this show which is Married at First Sight, basically. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so people go through this process of, and then these professional psychologists, whatever, will determine a percentage of compatibility. And then, they say, oh, you're 78% compatible with this